What's up everybody, Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye. Huge thanks to Dodge for flying me all the way out here to Portland, Maine to review the all-new 2019 Challenger Redeye for you guys today. So about the Hellcat Redeye, well, as you can see, the first main change here for 2019 is up front there. You have the dual snorkel hood, they call it, which is actually functional, does bring in air into that engine bay there, and is a really cool look that nicely separates it from, lesser Challengers for the 2019 model year. Now that is on both the regular Hellcat and the Redeye. As far as the Redeye, the only unique things to really set it apart are you'll see a tiny little red eye on the Hellcat badge on the fender here, and also the rear spoiler is slightly different where it kind of curves around towards the bottom there, whereas the regular Hellcat just has the traditional spoiler there that you see on other SRT products. But otherwise, it is a total sleeper. You have no clue whether you're dealing with 717 horsepower or 797 now. So pretty cool that it's, so discreet. But anyway, I mean, what can you say? I mean, these new Challengers, especially with this wide body they introduced last year, look so good. I still love they're sticking with the retro looks but modernizing it. I still love, you have the functional air scoops in the inner headlight there as well, which is really cool. And you of course have the LED rings around those headlights. I love the aggressive front lips you have here on the faster Challengers. It looks really great. Coming down to the sides here, you have these 20-inch wheels with the big 6-piston Brembos there showing through, and just a really cool tire setup, 305s all around here on the wide bodies, and that really gives it an aggressive stance I absolutely love. Like I said, you have this Hellcat badge there on the fender. Going out back there, like I said, you have that unique spoiler here for the Redeye. Otherwise though, it's just the same great long taillights you have here on the new Challengers, and it just is a really aggressive look. I especially love this Go Mango color that is a very bold color, but of course that's the great thing with the Challenger range. There are so many exciting colors to choose from. It's nothing boring. I mean, you have greens, you have yellow, you have the orange, you have purple. There's just about any color you want to suit whatever taste you have. And so overall, just a really great look here still for the Challengers. Right, for the interior of the 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye. Well, it is a very cool place to be, much like any other Challenger. They all have the same basic setup for the interior and all that type of stuff. Lots of the similar options. But anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats. Now these ones have the optional Alcantara seats. You can of course get full leather, and you can, like you'll see later on in the video, the car I'm driving later has some tan leather. It looks really nice. You can get all kinds of different options here, but I do like the Alcantara in these. They're still very grippy seats. They're also heated and cooled here in the Hellcat Redeye, and so that's really nice. It still has a lot of those high-end options you get with the Hellcats usually. Although an interesting thing is for the Hellcats for 2019, you can get a cloth option now on the regular Hellcat. And the Redeye here, that you still get some of that nicer equipment. But anyway, getting back to these seats, really nice bolstering here, very aggressive both for the thighs and for the torso. And so, not overly aggressive or anything, they're not race car seats, but just really nice large side bolstering and overall very sporty feeling seats. Next is the steering wheel here, which is the same as any other SRT Challenger, which is a really great thing. It has a nice 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches, a very thick, beefy wheel. This one is wrapped in leather. You can also get it wrapped in Alcantara if you would like. But, just a few buttons here on the front of them, like any other, FCA product, which I really like. And then you have the little volume rocker and tune switches here on the back of the steering wheel. And you also will find your half paddles here, which are real metal, feel really nice. And they're nice and tall when they come up, from the steering wheel here. And so really great and easy to grab. Next, the gauges here in the Hellcat Redeye, which are very cool. On the startup sequence there, you'll see a red eye in the Hellcat emblem, which you'll also see mirrored over on the passenger air vent area. Just that tiny little red eye, very, very subtle, but lets you know you're in something even a little more special than a regular Hellcat. Anyway, though, same great red background on these gauges, very fitting, of course, for the Redeye as well. But that's also something you'll see in regular Hellcats. But it looks really great. I still love these gauges. I love the retro setup and the exciting fonts you have with them there, and very cool. And also, since the Redeye has a higher top speed, 203, the 220 mile per hour speedometer is actually pretty useful. It's good that it goes over 200 because you actually could get it over 200, which is really cool. In the center there, you get the same great digital display you see in any other, Challenger, which is a really great setup. It has all your basic stuff, radio information, stuff like that, trip info, but you'll also have the vehicle info, and there is a ton. I mean, just by about every single thing that can be measured is measured. You know, whether it's temperatures for whatever, even top speed, all that type of stuff is all shown in there. And so really great to have all that. There's also the performance gauges. You can have it read out, you know, your 0 to 60 times and time, all that kind of stuff, quarter mile times. All those types of timers are also available to see in there. And a lot of that stuff is mirrored here on the center screen and the performance pages. And that, while we're talking about that, coming over to the center screen, you have the same great 8.4-inch Uconnect infotainment system you get in, you know, all the other Challengers, I think, at this point. A really great system, though. It has navigation here in the higher trims. And, you know, the maps and the navigation are, you know, the same they've been the past few years. Good, simple, very well done, you know, like a Garmin thing. Anyway, you know, you have the audio and, you know, all the different little shortcuts here like you see in these Uconnect screens. Very easy to use. One of the easiest to use infotainment screens. You know, thankfully it's just touchscreen and just very simple, large icons, very responsive. Really well done. And then, like I said, you go into the apps, and then you'll be able to see also that's where you can have hookups for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that this has, of course, which is really great. But you'll have those performance pages, which is, you know, you can go in and see even more stuff like a live dyno graph and all kinds of stuff. For 2019, it still is a little slow to boot up. I was hoping maybe they would have improved the speed on that, but still seems to be about the same. But it's okay. It just takes a few seconds, and then you have all that info up there, which is really great to have. That's also in these screens here. You'll see if you hit the SRT button by the volume knob, also that'll bring up your drive modes, and you have the drive mode selector there, and you can even customize that to, you know, whatever you want as far as all the individual parameters, which is really cool to have your own custom mode. And so overall, just a really great infotainment screen. Coming down, you'll have your volume and tune knobs here, just a few buttons. Like, again, you've seen any of the Challenger, the SRTs ones have the SRT button there, launch control, all that type of stuff, and then just a little knob there for your fan speed, for climate control, and that's it. You know, very simplified, all the basics you need though, and, you know, nothing you don't. And there's very few buttons, which I really like. As far as store space in the Challenger here, it's pretty good. You know, it hasn't changed, but for those who haven't seen my other Challenger videos, first off, in the doors here, you have a bottle holder, which is great to have. And on the back part, you have a little pocket, but it's really hard to reach whenever the door is closed. Coming over to the center here, you'll see a little pocket. You can fit like a ticket or something. But you do also have another net on the other side, the passenger side, and it's a lot longer. And that's also where you'll find your power outlet up front here, so you can run, you know, radar detectors, dash cams, all that type of stuff, and plug that in there. And then by the shifter here, you have another little slot, which is perfect for holding the key. And then you have the center armrest, which is really nice and softly padded, nice squishy. You know, feels pretty nice, this leather as well. And anyway, you open that up and you'll find 2 USB jacks, an auxiliary jack, and another power outlet. And, you know, a pretty decent amount of storage space there. And so, you know, it goes pretty deep down, you know, and should be good for most. You'll see a little Dodge Brothers emblem here on top of it, which is cool. So as far as storage space goes, you know, it's not the best. I would say it's you know, not quite as good as the Mustang, but I think it is better than the Camaro as far as storage space. And so overall, you know, pretty good for a car of this type. One thing that definitely is better than average for this class is the back seat in the Challenger, which is the roomiest and most usable back seat out of any of these muscle cars and sports cars of this class. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, I do fit back there totally comfortably. I have, you know, a little bit, you know, about a finger's width of leg room to spare, and then I do have a couple inches of headroom as well. So, you know, it's a very comfortable back seat, even for adults. You can fit back there. You know, if you're under 6 feet tall, I'd say, should be able to fit back there pretty easily. You'll also even find a fold down center armrest, which neither of the competitors have, and that has 2 cup holders in it. And you'll even find air vents there in front of the transmission tunnel there as you're looking forward in the back, which is, again, something that none of the competitors offer. So if you want a muscle car or a sports car with a good back seat, I think this definitely has the Mustang and Camaro beat in that regard for sure. Trunk space in the Challenger has always been really great as well. You know, it's got a taller opening, but once you get into that trunk there, it's really nice and deep, a nice wide opening, so you can fit, you know, golf clubs, those types of things in there. And it goes pretty far back, and just a nice large trunk space for sure. And then beneath the floor there, in this one, since it has the optional Harman Kardon stereo, you'll see the 2 subwoofers there, as well as the battery for the vehicle is in the trunk there. And then you have a little, you know, air compressor, no actual spare tire, but, you know, with these 20s, it'd be hard to fit a spare tire that would fit over those Brembos anyway. And so anyway, a great amount of trunk space back there. All right, so start them go for a drive. The Hellcat Redeye has the red key. Of course, there's a black key for the lesser horsepower, I think 500 horsepower. The red key is the full 797 horsepower, and you can see possibly there. It actually does have a red eye on the key, which is really cool. It has that, and otherwise, just the same great key you see in any other FCA product, which is a good thing. It's of course keyless access, keyless entry, push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it roars to life. All right, so setting off in the 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye. So the first thing you notice, well, I think the first thing I'm noticing here is the double bubble intakes here you have for the hood vents. It's really a cool look whenever you're looking for it. There's always been exciting hoods on Challengers in the past here, but this one is just a little more unique because, again, you have the effect of the two scoops there. Otherwise, though, it's pretty good visibility like any other Hellcat, where it's just any other Challenger. You have pretty good A-pillars here that aren't too thick. You have nice large side windows, a really good view there. You do have a little bit of a chunkier C-pillar than you get in some of the other muscle cars, and that is one thing that you're backing out of certain areas. It can be a little tricky, but not a big deal. And view out of the back is really great with a nice large rear window. Another thing you notice about the Hellcat Redeye is it is the wide body, of course. So that means you have the 305 wide tires all around, and so that really appreciate. We're already on some back roads here, going around some corners. I'm kind of taking it easy here until I can do my first acceleration. But you can tell there's definitely got that same great amount of grip that you get with the regular Hellcat wide body that was introduced last year. Although you have basically the Demon engine here in the Redeye, you just have a little better handling, I think, than you do with the Demon. The Demon was set up for straight line drag racing, and so the suspension was set up for that specifically, whereas this has that Hellcat wide body type of suspension setup where it actually seems to have grip, even at low speeds here. Of course, we'll push a little bit more and even go onto the racetrack a little bit, but already I can just tell that it's got that nice planted feeling to it, and just feels just very stable, and obviously very wide on the road as well. These Challengers, I've gotten used to them over the years of driving them here, but it's definitely a very wide vehicle. If you're on a narrow road, you feel like you're in a big muscle car, but that just adds to the experience to me. All right, so we're gonna have some track time and stuff, but just for a little pull here on the street just to see how this does. We have traction control. We're going to make sure that we turn that on. We're gonna go to this custom mode, and here we go. Oh man, and then it takes off like a rocket. And then I gotta slow down because this thing gets up and goes really, really fast. So the Hellcat Redeye here has the same glorious 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi V8 engine. In this application, it does 797 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. It has a top speed of over 203 miles per hour to be exact, in a muscle car. It's so sweet, and so it's very, very impressive. And it's a typical Hellcat type of experience. You get the supercharger one, and you just get that very burbly exhaust that sounds so good, and you get a little bit of wheel spin, but it does a good job of keeping it tamed so that it's keeps you going in a straight line. It's not scary, but it is still very violent in a very good way, and so it's you have the ZF 8-speed still. It's actually the same ZF 8-speed as the Demon, so the shifts I'm feeling are a little bit more firm than they are usually in other Hellcats and Scat Packs and things like that. But it's great. It's the ZF 8-speed automatic, very, very quick with the shifts. We go over to manual here. We have the transmission in sport mode now, and it's not like dual clutch fast, it's like a PDK or something, but for an automatic, it is one of the best automatics out there. I absolutely love this ZF 8-speed, and very quick. But you can feel, probably on camera, you can see the camera shake on those upshifts. It is a firm upshift, but I like that. It creates drama and excitement, and if you want to really smooth everything out, you can take the transmission, put it into the street mode, make everything nice and soft and comfortable if you want. But I love the built-in drama. Instead of trying to make everything super smooth and perfect, let's just make it rough and exciting, and it's great. But yeah, it's a nice strong amount of power. The great thing with this ZF 8-speed though is it really does a good job of utilizing all of that power. So the Redeye, one thing with the Redeye is you cannot get it with a manual. You can still thankfully get the manual in the regular Hellcat, which is also 10 horsepower greater for 2019 here. So you have 717 in those, still plenty. And the 797 in this just feels great. But I'm kind of glad it's with automatic. I mean, obviously it'd be cool to have a manual choice, but this automatic is so fantastic, and I think makes these feel faster because, you know, you have 8 gears that are all more closely spaced together than you do with, you know, the longer gearing of the 6 speeds. Makes it feel a little less extreme. This really makes sure that every time you stomp on that gas, we go back into automatic mode. Every time you stomp on that gas, I mean, it is thrilling. I mean, it throws you back in the seat. It just empties your pockets while it's at it. I'm like trying to hold everything into my pockets here because it's that amount of G-forces where it will literally empty your pockets. It's great. But now that we've settled down a little bit here, a couple other things I'm noticing. So we're on a higher speed kind of highway type of road now. It's a really smooth cruiser, just like any other Challenger. They are fantastic cruisers. Of course, you have obviously just being larger, but they're a little more comfortable. You know, it's a little more spacious than all the other muscle cars. So you feel like you have more room to kind of stretch out a little bit. It's just a smoother ride. It's just a very nice, relaxed vehicle whenever you don't want to drive crazy. One other thing that's unique about the Redeye from the Hellcat, at least what I'm noticing here, is it's a little louder, which is great because you get a little more crackles and pops on the overrun, which is cool. But there is this frequency, I think, with this louder exhaust where it drones a little more than a regular Hellcat used to. And you get just the right frequency, and it can get a little boomy in the cabin. And so that's something that I'm not a huge fan of drone. You know, it would be nice to kind of just have an active exhaust. You can actually, you know, choose what setting you want it on or something like that. Whereas this, it's still kind of a throttle dependent thing, which is cool and works great. But there are times where this can get a little boomy. And again, the Hellcat had great volume and great sound already. And so this turning up the volume is cool. But it's, you know, sometimes when you're cruising, you're definitely going to want to make sure you leave in automatic mode because this only really happens in manual mode where you're forcing it to stay at a certain RPM. If you go to the automatic, you let it chill out, then it goes away and you don't have the drone anymore. So it's cool, but just some small little nitpick thing to point out. But whenever you want to slow down all of this power, you have the same great 6-piston Brembo brakes as the Hellcat here, the regular Hellcat. And so, I mean, gets this thing stopped really, really well. And again, because of those 305 wide tires, you know, you have plenty of grip there, you know, to help you slow down as well and to, you know, take you around the corners there. But it's good. You have nice, beefy brakes, really responsive brakes as well that, you know, you just, as soon as you get onto the brakes, it bites down nice and hard. And throttle response, by the way, is immediate. The joys of a gloriously supercharged engine, it's just, there's no waiting around, there's no lag, there's no nothing, you know, it's just so direct and sharp. And you know, of course, you can also customize that here in the drive modes to make it, you know, less sensitive or more sensitive. But I absolutely love, I mean, it's it immediately just downshifts with this automatic. This automatic is so quick to give you a downshift and just say, all right, let's go crazy, and you just go crazy. And it's just a blast. Alright, so I've been driving the Hellcat Redeye here for a while longer. We actually took it on track, hence my helmet hair, and it's an absolute blast on track. We also got to drive the Scat Pack wide body, which is new for 2019 as well. And as a quick little aside, that it handles so well. I almost look at it like a Corvette Grand Sport for the Challengers, where it's got all the grip but doesn't have, you know, the supercharged motor, just has the naturally aspirated one. But that makes for such a really stable and really well done track vehicle out of the Challenger. But the Redeye on track, I noticed that it was definitely a little bit softer actually than that Scat Pack wide body. You know, you have, of course, a little bit more weight there with the supercharger and everything that goes along with it. But it's still, I mean, these things handle so much better than anyone gives them credit for. And they are really, really impressive on track, especially whenever you're going full bore 130 miles an hour down the back straight there. It is impressive. And I really think that's the strength of the Redeye. Getting back to the road impressions here is, you know, when you're doing like a 0 to 60, it's not a wild difference from a regular Hellcat, you know, and that now, you know, for 2019, those have an extra 10 horsepower as well, thanks to the new hood. So they have 717 now. And so going from the Hellcat to the Redeye, there's not a wild difference at legal speeds. If you go beyond legal speeds, that's where you really find, I guess, the extra lungs of the Redeye, and where it really gets to be more impressive. So if you obviously want the additional power for drag racing or road racing or any other questionably illegal activities that involve higher speeds, I think that's where the Redeye is the strongest. Otherwise, I still think the Hellcat, I mean, it still is a phenomenal vehicle. It still has over 700 horsepower, and it is an absolute blast as well. But of course, the Redeye gives you the bragging rights as well. Now, the Demon is out of production. This is the most powerful production V8. It's the fastest. 203 mile per hour top speed, like I said, is just crazy. So if you want the top dog, this is it. And it's a very, very impressive top dog. We'll have to see if any of the competitors can try and top this, but I don't think they will. This is really setting the bar super high. But one thing I really love about the Redeye is, it's not just a Demon with 10 less horsepower. It actually has the same great suspension as the regular Hellcat. So the Demon, whenever I reviewed that, if you watched that video, you know that it handled okay, but it didn't handle as well as a wide body Hellcat, because they set it up for drag racing, and so it wasn't supposed to have those transitions, and it had the softer sidewalls, all that type of stuff. So it was not set up for handling. This, you get the Demon power just about, all that craziness, but you still also have the handling to go along with it to make it a really good, well-rounded vehicle as well. You still have the great brakes, and everything about this, is very, very impressive in the corners. And it's one of those vehicles with 305 wide tires that, of course, you cannot even get close to the limits on legal speeds on the road. It is way more tire, way more car than you can even exploit half of, honestly. But it is nice that you can feel a little bit more stability than if you were to go with like the 275s, which amazingly you can still get with the Redeye. The last thing to mention, though, is the price of the Redeye. So one cool thing with the Hellcats for 2019 is you can now get a base model with cloth seats, and so they've actually lowered the price of the regular Hellcat. So now those start at just over $58,000. Now if you want the wide body, that's $6,000 extra, and then the Redeye is $11,000 on top of whatever equipment you want on a Hellcat. So that gives you the Redeye treatment. So this one, as tested, is around $88,000, but technically, you want a wide body Redeye, that's $17,000 over that $58,000 price. So if you wanted a wide body Redeye, that would mean it would start around $75,000, which again, I think is still much more affordable than the Demon. You only get 10 less horsepower, you have better handling, obviously not as many drag strip toys, not as focused on the drag strip, although it still would be a very good drag strip performer. So it still is not quite as impressive as the Demon, of course, in the straight line on the drag strip, but still, for everything all considered, I think that's still a very good price, because you're not going to get even close to this amount of horsepower anywhere else for $75,000. But yeah, overall, what's not to like? The Hellcats and the Redeye now just continues on with the legacy that Dodge has of just making the exciting, the crazy, absurd stuff that no one else makes, that no one else, wants to make or will make. Dodge is the ones that, they're going to go for the highest horsepower. They're going to go for the crazy stuff. And so the fact that Dodge provides all this is really exciting. All right, so one last acceleration here in the Hellcat Redeye, because it's just too much fun. Here we go.